In today's episode of the Pathmark Presents podcast, I have an interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Kaylee Baskett, and she is basically hailing over as a director of revenue growth or customer marketing at SlapFive Customer Marketing. And today we're going to be, learning all about what SlapFive is all about and how the customer marketing software platform actually works, and how Kaylee's thinking about growth for the company, and also obviously getting to know a little bit about herself as well. So, Kaylee, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lucas. Happy to be here and meet you virtually as well as all of the listeners here.
Very cool. Give us an overview. What is SlapFive customer marketing all about? And maybe also about that customer marketing in particular, so that people fully grasp it.
Absolutely. So, customer marketing in general is a very sort of nascent field within marketing that is up and coming. So, a lot of buyers and buyer persona research have really discovered that there's a big trust gap in the market when people are looking to make a purchase. And so, customer marketing is really designed to put the customer's own voice in an authentic light and allow your own clients to really do a lot of the marketing for your company. And so our platform, SlapFive, is an all-in-one customer marketing platform that's designed to help customer marketers and customer advocacy managers scale what they are doing in terms of creating content with authentic customer voice, sharing that out among their existing clients, but also prospects, and also without burning out any of their existing advocates, because it's very important to keep your super fans happy. And so our software is designed to help do all of those things at scale.
Okay, that makes it super clear. Maybe tell me what types of organizations would benefit the most of this. I mean, obviously, every business that a customer sounds kind of can benefit from this, but maybe tell us a bit more in particular, which businesses sort of benefit the most.
Yeah, so we definitely skew towards the SaaS space, as I'm sure that you as well do. But really, what we've discovered in terms of our true ideal customer profile, I think there's a lot of rhetoric now in the B2B space about being customer centric. But realistically, companies that truly feel that they want to value their clients and value their input, not just for, internal purposes like, product feedback, but also kind of giving back to those customers in a community mindset and enabling them to have opportunities to grow their own thought leadership and grow their careers. Those types of companies are the ones that we consider to get it. And so companies who not just talk the talk of being customer centric, but truly walk the walk, those are the ones who we really try to work with.
And who within those companies would be sort of, identifying that something like SlapFive would be relevant? Is that like, does it come from the customer success side, or does it come from the sales side because they need better testimonials, or does it come from the marketing side because they need to tell a better story? Like where is it coming from?
Such a great question and a really complex answer. So, because customer marketing is still this sort of new area, we tend to find that there's generally only one or two practitioners, and especially smaller companies. And where they sit in the organization really depends on kind of exactly what you're talking about, what those challenges are that they're facing today. So, in some organizations, they could be on the product marketing team. And other organizations, they roll up to customer success or just to the CMO themselves. It really just depends on the organization, but I think that the space as a whole is still trying to sort of navigate where customer marketing sits. And a lot of the conversations that we're having with these practitioners are about really fostering the relationships with all of those teams. So, getting in close and tight knit with the sales leadership, to really determine what are the biggest questions, fears, and doubts of the buyers throughout their cycle, that you can start to infuse customer voice and customer advocates into those sorts of activities. But then also staying really close with customer success so that, you're not all tapping into the same clients for different asks at the same time. And really just making sure that everybody has one single point of view into what are all of the different asks that we are making of our clients, and making sure that they are aligned with the strategic growth initiatives of your organization, which that requires a lot of touch points with leadership as well. And so our goal as an organization is not only to give and empower these practitioners with the technology to do these things, but also to help them navigate this brand new landscape, and really get a seat at that executive table, because it's our belief that the person who knows the customer best truly has all of the power in an organization.
Yeah, that is very, very insightful, and shows a little bit also sort of where the topic is, or where the field in itself is in development. Super interesting. What I'm curious now is, like, how do these folks, those practitioners, as you mentioned, how do they actually hear about SlapFive? Like, what would be sort of the key client acquisition channels that you guys are leveraging?
Yes, great question. So we actually, in addition to having our own sort of advocacy group, which we call our SlapFive Rock Stars. I think different companies have different programs with names. So we've got our own customers who tend to be quite loyal to us if they move on to different organizations, and they tend to be repeat customers. But we also have a community of over 700 customer marketing and customer advocacy pros that we are constantly nurturing with, events, webinars, things that are educational, that are truly driven by the community. So it's not a top down, we're telling you how you need to do things. Although, yes, there is some thought leadership that comes from our organization, but we truly have created this community to be just a medium for all of these practitioners to connect and to bubble up, the things that they need within their roles. And so they are the ones who sort of nominate the topics that we focus on. So, for example, we just wrapped up a conference this past week, and everything was led by these practitioners in the community. All of the topics were voted on and selected by them. And so the community is a huge part of our strategy. And so, there's all sorts of nurturing that we do within that community through email marketing. And then also we have our own, sort of social channels. So I do a lot of content on LinkedIn, as well as my colleague Dana. She and I are both, really attempting to get involved with as many of these types of conversations as we can. And we also have our own podcast where we like to bring in additional practitioners. So some of those.
Where can people find it? Where can they find it? Like, we love to cross-reference podcasts.
Yeah, so the community is called the CustomerX community, and the podcast is the CustomerX Therapy Podcast. And both of those have their own LinkedIn pages with all sorts of access, but you can search for the CustomerX Therapy Podcast on any podcast app and listen to us talk with customer marketing and advocacy pros, either to give them therapy, which is kind of a big topic in a space where people tend to be single person bands, or they oftentimes are providing their own insights on their careers and how they've arrived at where they are. And so I would say, community, the social channels, and the podcast, along with direct outreach and some sort of like ABM type of marketing campaigns, are our main channels.
Cool. Maybe one last follow-up question to the community before we are moving on in the interview. I would be curious, right? Like, what have you found to be maybe a surprising fact, or something that you found super interesting as to what makes a community grow? Like, what was maybe one or two things that you've seen where you think, that's interesting when it comes to community growth?
Yeah, and I love this question because it's so dependent on the space that people are in. We have people ask clients who are asking us all the time, does it make sense? Like, should this be a part of our strategy? And the reality is, you have to go out and ask your own clients and your own, base of your audience, really. What is it that they are looking to do? And so I would say any industry where people are hungry to learn from their peers and maybe even put out some of their own thought leadership, those are some of the criteria that I would say makes an organization ripe for creating a community. But it is not the type of thing that you can just say we're going to build it and hope that they come. There are plenty of these instances that just completely fall flat because people are, not really taking the time to do a true deep dive with their clients around, what is my favorite question to ask in these types of sort of go-to-market research strategy sessions is, what can we provide to you in an advocacy program that is going to make it so valuable that you cannot say no, like that you
Mm.
will absolutely raise your hand to participate in. And if community happens to bubble up and be one of those things, and connecting with peers happens to continue to bubble up, then, that's a good indicator that it's a good strategy for your audience.
And for marketers who are building up communities, a very practical question, maybe before we move on, is what have you found to be sort of a good way to sort of facilitate the community? Like, is it, a Slack group? Is it a forum? Is that, a LinkedIn group? Is that, what have you found to be sort of, a good way to do that?
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes back to asking. So, we always are asking so a little bit of background on me and how I came to know SlapFive is through customer research. And so, our founder was formerly the advisor to CMOs at Forrester, and so his background is research as well, and that's how we met. And so, as a part of doing this customer research, which is something that the business has sort of moved away from, but we obviously are still strategic with our clients in this way, is really asking, what are the channels that you live in? Where do you spend your time already? And then adapting what you're creating to those things. Because I think we all are inundated with a ridiculous amount of tools today. And so if you can avoid creating another login or another, place for people to go and for their eyeballs to be
Mhm.
attended to, then all the better. It's best to just sort of provide the tools in places where the majority of your clients are already, participating. And another thing that really came up during our conference this past week a lot was it's not necessarily an or, it's an and, right? So if you're able to do a Slack channel and a LinkedIn group and have, some marketing newsletters that really summarize what are happening in those places, that's going to really gain and garner the most eyeballs from your audience. Because although it might create a little bit more work on your end, it really pays dividends if you're capturing and creating that organic growth that comes with community.
Cool. So we talked a bit about sort of the different channels that you mentioned. I'm curious, what role do you attribute to the website? What role does the website play?
Yes, so website is an area that we are working on today. So we've been doing quite a bit of work with some organizations to help with our SEO presence, and creating. We as an organization create a lot of video content, and so kind of figuring out how to tie video in with some blog posts and backlinking into other sites. So the website is a work in progress, I would say. It needs a bit of a design overhaul, if I'm being frank. I think anybody who looks at it would agree with that. But um, it is and I think the intent of our CEO was really to be an educational place. And so today it's a true repository for resources for customer marketers. And I think we're going to be, moving a little bit more towards a little bit more product led on the website as we're evolving here. Did that answer your question?
No, it did, for sure, for sure. Just like
Okay.
you shared a bit of insights about the website. Maybe one question on the website is, that we typically talk about quite a bit in the podcast is, how do you as a marketer, or your team goes about figuring out why people do or do not sign up for the website, right? They learn about SlapFive, they come to the page, like, what is sort of the tools, approaches, mechanisms you guys use to figure out why they wouldn't, for example, sign up for a demo?
So somebody lands on the website and then doesn't click to ask for a demo. This is an ongoing internal conversation, so I definitely have a lot of thoughts running through my mind. But I would say that there can be some hesitation around the customer marketing space in general is so new, and the umbrella and that these customer marketers and customer advocacy pros are carrying in terms of what they're responsible for is such a wide variety. And so I think we're now getting to the point where we are trying to figure out what the governance structure needs to be within our website to draw the right people to the right components of our platform without sort of confusing them or getting them into a noisy place where they feel like, oh, maybe this isn't so relevant for me. Because the reality is we do have solutions for anybody, not just somebody who's looking to accomplish every single thing that our platform accomplishes. We have solutions and sort of modules that are applicable for whatever part of the maturity curve a customer advocacy program or marketing program is at. And so we are sort of in the process of figuring out, how to pull the UX or pull the eyeballs using UX into the right way, in a way that's sensical without confusing people about A, what we do, and B, how it's relevant to them.
Super insightful. Seems to be, like, as I said, an ongoing conversation with a lot of depth to it. To wrap it up, I have some rapid fire questions to get to know you a little bit better. You ready for those?
I'm ready.
What's the last book you read?
The last book I read was Fanocracy by David Meerman Scott.
What's the one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Oh my gosh, that's a really tough question. Sorry for my pause here. The one single thing that we're the most focused on, I would say, is growth. Yeah, just
Very
growth.
good. That makes sense. If there would be no boundaries in tech, everything is possible, right? What would be one thing that you would change for your role?
Oh, just automatic updating of contacts in our CRM. People in this, as you know, it's the era of resignation. So people are turning and changing roles constantly. And so keeping up with that in the back end of the CRM is a pretty big challenge that is a bit manual today. So there may be a solution already. So if offline you want to tell me about any ideas you have, I'm all ears.
Sounds like a great idea. The LinkedIn information straight into the CRM to update.
That's my vision.
Yeah,
We heard it here first.
Very good. And the last question would be, what's one advice you would give yourself if you would be rejoining SlapFive today?
Yes, I would say to advice for myself if I were to rejoin SlapFive. embrace the technology side. When I first started with SlapFive, we also had a research portion of the business and a
Mhm.
services side, which is something that I and our CEO are both very passionate about. But in a way, it's because the technology side has taken off so much. Um, it's just an area that we need to focus more on. And so the more that I have sort of, oh gosh, what's the past tense of dive in this sense? But the more that I dove in, there we
I'm
go.
German, don't ask me.
Yeah. The more I dove into the product side, the more passionate I have become about that aspect of the technology. And so that would be my advice to myself, is just embrace the tech and dive into the product, because it is really exciting to be able to be a part of this small knit team, close knit team, excuse me, that is building something that is really led by what our customers and the market desires, because it's such a rapidly changing market. So it's something to be passionate and excited about.
Um, really appreciate that you took the time with us, Kelly, today for the Pathway Presents podcast. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be, forgetting all that we discussed about SlapFive, what's the one thing they should remember?
Uh, Customers are your superpower, whether you recognize it now or not. So empowering them, respecting their own boundaries, the things that they want to do, and providing them with the platform, or I guess the medium, to communicate with your company, but also your potential clients, in a way that they actually are going to want to participate, is, I think, really where business is moving. I look at customer marketing as kind of an extension of what's happened in the B2C world, where, we're all able to go look at Amazon reviews and see exactly what other people are saying about products. And it's taken a little while for that to make its way into B2B. But the reality is everybody buys by talking to their peers. And so, if you're trying to sugarcoat and make everything that your clients are saying uh, painted in this beautiful rose-colored glass, you're really missing the mark. I mean, it's all about the authenticity. People can see through sort of fake, glossy, like happy quotes in a case study. You really do need to allow your clients to have a place where they can authentically connect with their peers, and that's going to create a lot of organic growth.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathway Presents.
Thanks, Lucas.